We've actually seen some really interesting results where the longer form headlines, like the longest you can be, actually work really well when you'd expect a performance advertiser, the quickest you can get them to the app store, the better. Actually, it hasn't necessarily been the case in terms of conversion rates and in terms of like ROAS.
We gonna take it, 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 gonna take it to the top.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Road to Ad Rolls. With me is Ashleigh Rankin, Senior Manager of the Growth Partnerships team at Reddit. Ashleigh has been in the performance marketing space for roughly around the same time as me, around 8 years. Your bread and butter has been on the mobile performance side, specifically working agency side with Fetch. I think you were number 2, correct me if I'm wrong. Fetch, number 3.
Okay.
Fetch was one of the agencies that has a lot of the household name brands like Supercell and Clash of Clans and many others. But more recently, you've joined the Reddit ads team and head up their growth partnerships, which is why we're going to have the call and dig into that. Did I skim over anything, Ashleigh? You want to fill in any gaps there?
No, I think you covered the most of it. Yeah, I started my career actually as a business analyst at Microsoft doing social media sentiment reports, but
Riveting.
It was riveting. Yeah, we didn't have as much of the marketing side with that. And then I got an opportunity to move over to San Francisco about 8 years ago to go and work for Fetch, number 3 in the San Francisco office. And we grew from 3 to about 75, went through an acquisition as well. And I was running the media buying teams for Supercell, Hotels.com, a few entertainment brands. And then actually my Reddit story is pretty interesting because my mentor from Pandora, Ryan Anjarami, he had just recently joined Reddit to start their performance team. And he reached out to me and he was like, I know you're an SF, I know you're good with Fetch, but do you want to go to New York and lead our performance team in the East Coast? And I was like, yeah, I think I do. So 2 years ago, I moved to New York and helped start our performance division in the East Coast at that point. And we've since grown a ton and kind of restructured into large customer sales and then growth partnerships, which encompasses mid-market and SMB. And so a lot of what I've been focused on and a lot of what our team is focused on is really building like the DR side and working with those DR advertisers, D2C brands, the people who care about ROAS, the people who care about measurement, and
which should be everyone. Really.
Which should be everyone, but not as many people as you would think.
So coming from the buy side with Fetch and then moving to the supply side, what were some of the key learnings that you were able to bring from the agency side? That, like, what made you such an attractive person for that person to knock on your door and bring you over?
Yeah, I mean, I think Reddit had been really strong on the brand side and the reach and the impressions and the splashy, exciting brand campaigns, but we hadn't really done much with performance or DR at all when I joined in December 2018. And so I had my entire career was performance. I was best buddies with all of the mobile measurement partners. I knew every single type of buy that there was. I think I onboarded maybe 600 networks onto my agency list.
Holy.
So I was familiar with the space.
Yeah.
But I think what was really interesting whenever I came over and whenever I interviewed for the role as well, it was like the kind of things that I was bringing up, like postbacks and measurement. Those were things that they hadn't really even thought about. Like we just went into GA with postbacks about a month ago, and I had been asking about it at my interview in 2018. So we've come a long way, but I think, just bringing that side of like, what do advertisers actually really want? It's not always really sexy stuff, especially for performance advertisers. It's like postbacks and bulk upload. That wasn't a thing. Bulk upload. That's such a funny thing that is so important whenever you're running like crazy global campaigns, but that maybe isn't something that, comes from a seller background to think of. So I think that
Right.
was what was exciting whenever I initially joined, and kind of what I brought to the table as well, is like these kind of unsexy things in the back end that advertisers actually want to do.
Yeah, you had some pretty easy, quick wins out the gate then, I'm sure. I mean, it took that long to get the post back set up or the bulk uploads, but still, those are pretty necessary when you're trying to build a DR platform.
It was definitely interesting. I think a lot of the start, we kind of were selling as we were building. So a lot
Hmm.
of sell to clients was not like, we're this amazing performance platform and you can get everything that you want from us. It was like, okay, Reddit is actually really unique and we have an untapped audience, and the way that we target people is really different from your competitors. So
Yeah.
I think that was a lot of the initial sell. Like, we know we don't have that much data and stuff, but also we're really good without it. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the initial sell in, and it worked. And then we got all of the performance products that actually worked, and people were glad they stuck with us.
So with like while you're building, you're saying you're selling it as you're building it. What does it look like when you peer into like Facebook or like Ads Manager Facebook or all these different larger established platforms? Are you just cherry picking, or like obviously not everything's transferable because Reddit's quite unique? Were you able to go in and kind of say, we want this, we don't want that? Like, what were you leveraging from established platforms?
Yeah, I think one of the things that was really attractive about coming to Reddit to work was being able to have a say in what the product was going to end up being. So
Hmm.
almost all of the account managers in my team came from the agency side. Like, you know, those people have been in the wars. Like, they've had to stay up until midnight uploading creatives into campaigns and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So all of the team was really close to product, and we were able to, you know, really draw on our experiences from working with so many different other platforms and building out Reddit the way that we wanted it to be
Hmm.
built out. Also, you know, not really make the mistakes I think that other people made. Like, one of the really cool things about Reddit is like the pseudonym thing. So we don't target anyone based on demographics or anything. Like, we don't make this assumption that, I don't know, a 35-year-old single lady is potentially going to be looking at engagement rings. You would need to actually, on Reddit, you would target someone based on if they were interested in a community that was that. And I think like that was the really easy sell for DR advertisers, was like, you cut out this middleman of like, we think this person might be into this thing
Hmm.
because they're of that demographic. It's like, no, you've actually put your hand up and said, I'm really into cooking, or I'm really into gaming, or I'm really into diet supplements. Like, you cut out
Hmm.
the middleman and you don't have to make those assumptions anymore. So
There's so much more intent involved. You're skipping the step. You're actually accessing those who've already shown intent. Like when someone types in, where am I going to buy my jewelry in Google, the intent's already there.
yeah, and people really trust what people have to say. Like, a lot of the brands that we've been talking to recently are like, yeah, people really trust Redditors. Like, you know, you're getting the truth, and if it's bad, it's bad, and if it's good, it's good, and if it's good, then you can actually build your brand and build your community on Reddit and
Hmm.
do performance based off of that. So I think that's what made us work, and that's the differentiator from other platforms.
Hmm.
It's a nice sell, actually.
I like that. With so obviously there's learning curves by just assessing other platforms, but as you're onboarding different direct response advertisers onto the platform, whether it was on the disruptors team, like that you're involved with, or the self-serve side, what were some of their biggest like feedback? You probably had like a beta testers involved. Like, what were some of the initial feedback from the advertisers that you were onboarding? What their pain points were that you were able to kind of fix along the way?
Yeah, I think honestly at the start there was a lot of education to get people on the platform. And I think, you know, our clients were also asking us for the same things that I was asking for whenever I initially joined. But the education involved in actually showing people how to leverage Reddit's uniqueness
Hmm.
versus copy and paste their strategies from Facebook and Twitter and elsewhere. That was a lot of what we had to do.
Mm.
Especially with DR advertisers, like, it doesn't work the same. The way that you set campaigns up don't work the same. We don't have an algorithm actually at that time. to weight performance to specific creatives that had higher conversion rate or CTR. So a lot of what we had to work with advertisers on was like, here's how to set up a campaign with the correct amount of ad grips, the correct amount of ads, the right kind of creatives, the right kind of messaging to actually have enough optimization levers to see performance. So that was the education piece at the start, especially when we didn't have things like bulk upload wasn't in beta and postbacks weren't a thing. We had to log into the MMPs to see performance and match that with the Reddit data. So a lot of that initially with clients was a struggle, but we also saw a ton of really good performance even with those manual optimizations and all of that crazy stuff. So it was, if you can see like 3 or 4 times higher LTV without all that fancy bells and whistles and special targeting and all of that kind of stuff, then I think advertisers were on board to kind of go on the journey with us. And most people that we work with or love getting involved in alphas, love getting involved in betas, like to know that they have the actual opportunity to say, hey, we think you should be doing X, Y, and Z, and they can actually see it in the final product. And that's why advertisers work really closely with our team as well, is to really give that feedback and see it happen and see it in action whenever we actually put the product into the full form.
So just so people are clear, we're Ashleigh and I are kind of discussing 2 things. There's a self-serve platform, and then there's also the growth partnerships team, which is Ashleigh's responsibility. So on the growth partnership side of things, people can pay a minimum. I think you said before it was like $30,000 a quarter. Is that correct? And then you would work alongside them, and you would basically buy the data out the gate and figure out exactly where they'll fit within the Reddit ads ecosystem and fine tune it over more of a long-term play. Whereas the self-serve platform, can you just give a brief explanation of what the user experience is like for that?
Yeah, so anyone can go onto the self-serve platform and run a campaign if they have a credit card and they link it up and they have assets. It's possible to do that, and we see that a lot with more maybe niche small businesses who don't have a ton of money to play with and actually really want to focus on specific subreddits that might be related to, throw it out there, like diet pills or wellness or just something a little bit more niche. They have smaller amounts of budgets and they can get a ton of help from our ads help desk as well. We have a lot of resources that are available for people who want to set up campaigns for the first time. And then with my team, we really work like hand in hand with advertisers to set up the campaign, send them the media plan, break out their interest targeting, give them insights on what's working, optimize. Like we'll have weekly, bi-weekly calls depending on the advertiser where we would just run the campaigns for them, give them updates on how things are performing. That's worked really well because it isn't the most intuitive platform for self-serve yet. There's a lot of tips and tricks, quite honestly, that our team has to make it work. And so if you have a decent amount of budget to put behind a campaign, we really recommend that you work with us, because we also have like custom things that we can do as well. We can upload audiences for suppression. We can do different kinds of targeting. We get involved in all of the alphas and betas, so we can test things out like retargeting and stuff like that. So the experience is a little different. And typically when people with larger budgets have tried to do self-serve campaigns without a kind of Reddit rep to walk them through it, it typically hasn't worked as well. And then we've jumped in and given some recommendations, given them an idea of where to spend, an idea of where to break things out, because like I mentioned at the start, you need a ton of different optimization levers. So you need a ton of different ad groups. When we've done that and we've worked with clients to do that, we've really seen a ton of better performance. So highly recommend working with our stellar account managers. They know all of the tips and tricks and magic to make it work.
Would it make sense for someone to just start off with the growth partnerships team, and then once you optimize and get them off the right foot, then they can move it back to the self-serve platform where it's not costing them as much?
So the thing is as well, there's no additional fee or anything in having account managers run this for you. So we see that we work well with like a lean UA team who doesn't necessarily have an account manager for every different thing that they do. we would be that person. We would be that UA person that runs Reddit ads for
Right.
a user acquisition team. But ultimately, honestly, our platform is going to get to the place where we want to be able to just be consultants, and for it to be very easy and intuitive to use, and for people to be able to do this on their own. But if you have a decent amount of budget, 30 to 50K a quarter, and you want someone to get you off the ground running, it makes sense definitely to work with our team.
Yeah. Okay. So as we talk about it a little bit more, I'm more curious as to the ad formats that you have, because I'm just trying to think, like, it's native text insertions on community threads, or is there actual banners? Like, what does it look like for on the ad format side?
Yeah, so our main ad format is a promoted post, and that can be a static image, a video, a GIF, or a GIF, depending on your persuasion on which one you want to call it. And we don't actually have very many restrictions on that either. So I know with other platforms, there's a certain amount of text, and you can only have this, and you can only have this size of a video. Like, our platform actually accepts a ton of different creatives. So people have used us for creative testing to see what works. The key, I think, for advertisers is to lean into those headlines. So with each different static or image or video, the headline that goes with it is actually the first thing that draws a Redditor's attention. And we've actually seen some really interesting results where the longer form headlines, like the longest you can be, actually work really well. When you'd expect a performance advertiser, the quickest you can get them to the app store, the better. Actually, it hasn't necessarily been the case in terms of conversion rates and in terms of like ROAS. So this is another thing that we really, really encourage people to test as much as possible, like all of those different formats, while they're still able to, and while our platform kind of accepts everything, and while static and video cost the same, because you can bid the same for both.
I want to ask too, just like as you're running through this, with new ad buying platforms, one thing that sticks out to a lot of performance marketers is the compliance side of things, and with Facebook getting extremely tough to work with at times, whether it's just like a percentage off of the font size and it just be banned. It's just like it becomes bigger and bigger headaches. And then digital marketers are looking for other platforms just to be able to run a little bit more loosely on. What does the compliance side of things look like for Reddit ads?
Yeah, I mean, everything goes through a review system, all of the ads, and then we'll get alerted as a team, or you'll get alerted whether it's been approved or not. But kind of the standard of what you would expect to be allowed in ads are the things that make the most sense. And then, like I said, with the like specific percentage of text and all of that kind, we don't really have any of that yet. So if you couldn't put those ads in Facebook, you probably can on Reddit.
Make note. I'll put a timestamp on the video. So we had talked about it before. I just want to refresher the types of advertisers that are flocking to Reddit. Which are the ones that are seeing the most success? Who are those that are kind of your Goldilocks, that are fit that sweet spot?
There's a community for everyone on Reddit. So we see that a lot of different advertisers work on Reddit as well. And I mean, the book of business on my team has evolved so much over the last year even. But I think there are some verticals that do really well, and there are some clients that do really well. We find, mobile app install gaming works really well on Reddit. Tech recruiting works really well as well. We have a tech recruiting firm that puts top talent with some of the biggest growing companies in the world, and they drive users. If you're in San Francisco, you probably know who I'm talking about. But they drive users to complete an online quiz and enter their recruiting index. And we've worked with them for a couple of years, and they really actually leaned into the pop culture, meme culture, speaking to Reddit side of things. And their ads on somewhere like a LinkedIn are so, I don't want to say this, but just so bland and boring. And like, obviously they make sense for LinkedIn, but their ads on Reddit are like crazy memes and all of this kind of stuff. And they actually worked really, really well for us. I think we had like a 2.6 times higher LTV than our other platforms. And they're more efficient, and it was because they got the right audience, they spoke to them in the right way, they like lent into that Reddit culture, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. And then and the mobile app install gaming side of things, people have really leaned into like targeting the gaming interest on Reddit. And also we had like a racing game, and they went after racing enthusiasts, and we had like almost 2 times higher LTV than other social platforms. So when you get it right on Reddit, you like really get it right, and you get to a really engaged audience. And I think that's why I'm so excited to be here and to see us grow over the next kind of year to 3 years to 5 years, because there's so much potential and so much of an untapped audience as well.
Absolutely. With when we discussed like how it kind of worked, it didn't work so well on LinkedIn, but it actually worked exponentially better with doing the memes for Reddit. I'm kind of curious as to where you suggest Reddit ads fit into the funnel. Like, obviously, it doesn't have to be one over the other. Where does Reddit ads fit into, say, if you were doing like the prospecting side of things, or because they have more higher intent, they're a little bit further down the funnel? Do you want to retarget through Reddit or versus Facebook? Like, where do you see Reddit fitting in with all the other different platforms out there?
Yeah, I mean, we have something for every part of the funnel, I think, and that's I've been really focused on the DR side. I've seen really good results whenever we've really measured down funnel metrics. Like, I won't sit here and say that we're going to get $2 CPIs, but we're probably going to get a 4 or 5 times more valuable user on, say, a gaming client or something like that. We've also seen really interesting campaigns with like targeted AMAs of people who work at companies, and that's been a really good driver for engagement and interest, which then supports an evergreen campaign. So as 360 as you can get, the better.
Wow.
Like, if you can pull moments, or you have things that are coming out or new features, if you can kind of leverage some of our other brand initiatives, it usually only supports our evergreen initiatives, like our DR initiatives, by increasing conversion rates at that. So I think there is an opportunity across the board for the really big, splashy, custom execution brand campaigns, as well as, we want ROAS, and that's all we want, and we can deliver that too.
Very good. And with on the growth partner side of things, and maybe without naming any names, what has been like one of your biggest successes that potentially the audience would have heard of or know of, like brand-wise, but can you share with like a really successful campaign that you did on the growth partnership side?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be the tech recruiting firm that you
Right.
definitely know if you're in San Francisco. And it was just honestly the way that they leveraged all of the quirky, weird uniqueness of Reddit, and they hit the ideal audience that they wanted to hit. So we became one of their biggest evergreen partners in their media mix, because we were able to just outperform everyone else in terms of what their end KPI was. So that's been a big success. We've also seen a ton of success across the board with streaming. That's one that's really interesting, especially if you've got new shows, because there's a huge TV culture on Reddit as well, where people go to talk about shows that they're interested in. I know, like, I was obsessed with Game of Thrones, and I would go there and spend an hour on Reddit after Game of Thrones to analyze every second of the episode. So whenever people lean into that and streaming services lean into that, we've seen really good results as well.
Very smart. I like that. This has been awesome. I want to just cap it off with one final question, just to kind of looking forward in what Reddit ads will evolve into. What kind of features are? I know you said it took a while to get bulk upload up, a few years maybe, but what are those on the roadmap that ad buyers would actually be able to see quite soon with Reddit ads? What should they be excited about?
Yeah, so I struggle with this question because I've been saying that I'm excited about postbacks for 2 years. And so I've been so focused in on that now that we have it, I'm like, oh, what am I excited about now? But no, there's so much stuff to look forward to. We have an Eng team that's dedicated to DR. We have bulk upload coming in beta. We have a bunch of different targeting features. We have comment page native ads, which are coming, which are really exciting. So I think more than anything, I'm just excited to see Reddit's growth over the next couple of years, because people are really still flocking to Reddit for the communities that they're passionate about, and to find information about things that they're passionate about, and to then actually take action and make purchases based off of that. So, and also I'm excited that people have Reddit at this weird time in the world. Really great resources. It's a really great resource for people who want to find community and who maybe are struggling with being on their own. So that's my personal little pitch for Reddit. It's got a place.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think the audience will appreciate it too, just getting a better understanding of what Reddit ads is, so they can watch this video and then everyone be warmed up and ready to go for AdWorld. Thank you so much, Ashleigh, for joining us. And we will talk to you soon and see you in November for your presentation.